run a meetup group that all about self-development and encouraging others to be better version of themselves. So I'm not gonna run this show, so I pass it to Vinesh. Vinesh will be, coordinating who's talking what and ask us question. So I'll be pretending to be a guest today. So I'll pass it on to Vinesh, and Vinesh, tell us what's going on here.
Thanks, Jana. Thanks for this, for supporting us in this and providing a platform for LinkedIn Live today. Welcome to all the viewers. As you all know, this wasn't supposed to be a LinkedIn Live. This was supposed to be a in-person meetup where we have food, drinks, and some awesome networking options as well, which unfortunately did not work out. So this is the next best thing we can do, right? And let's make the most out of it. So the intention or the objective of today's session is, this comes from a personal objective and a personal motivation. I've changed or I've transformed a lot in the past couple of years, and the influence that coaches had on me was immense. I was someone, I was a software engineer. I was a normal person who just focused on my work, did my best behind the screen and behind a monitor, and that was life for me. I didn't need or I didn't want anything more out of it, right? But the gate that opened after that, hearing to a lot of thoughts. I've been in touch with Naisha for a long time. I've been to a lot of events from Jonathan as well, and the inputs, the insights these coaches bring in, and a lot of the whole thing about personal development has been huge for me. So I'm trying to give this back to everyone else to, when it comes to personal development, not everyone is ready, especially, you go to a coach, it's very expensive. That's the first thing, unfortunately, here. And you just back up. And it's like, it's not worth it. If it's a certification, if it's $1,000, yes, let me do it. No one even questions it twice. But when it comes to personal development, people always are hesitant whether to go for it or not. So I thought, let me put our platform out there where people can explore what's happening, what can you get out of it, how can you get out of it, and what all this hype is all about. And that's where you are here today. So once again, thanks to each one of you who have joined us to view us. And we have 4 amazing coaches with us today. I'll go in the order of how LinkedIn Live started us. So first of all, you already know Jana Martinson. Jana Martinson is a video coach and probably one coach who is most in demand right now. In fact, she was giving us a coaching lesson for all 5 of us on how our camera angles, how our lighting is not correct and stuff like that. So thanks, Jana, for being a part of this.
Thank you, Vinesh. So I guess I introduce myself again for those who's watching it on your YouTube channel. So my name is Jana Martinson. I do mostly video coaching, but it's not just only about video. It's about personal branding overall as well. It's a lot about how you can communicate online is the most authentic way, and the video is just a powerful communication tool. So how we can bring this, same principles of communication and we do face-to-face, how we can bring it online and actually utilize the power of the video in the same time.
Thanks, Jana. So the next coach is Andrew. So Andrew is a technical leadership coach. So I'm sure, each one of you are in a phase where, not each one of you will get into a phase where you have done your work excellently. You're a software engineer, you're doing your work great, but what next? What's the next step? How do you get there? What happens there? And that's where Andrew comes into picture. Once again, thanks, Andrew, for being a part of this meetup.
You're welcome, Vinesh. I think the story you told at the beginning of being that software developer who's very good at their job but wants to know what the next step is, I think that's a very, very common story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I help people with. It's that, I'm a good software developer, but I want to know what I can do to be more influential. I want to know what I can do to be more recognized and to improve the impact that I'm having on the business and to improve what that means in terms of my position and my career. So what I tend to help people with is that recognition that what made them successful in the past, which is their technical skills, is not going to be what makes them successful in the future. which is their soft skills and their leadership skills.
And it's so important. Excellent introduction. Thanks for that, Andrew. The next one, Naishad. Naishad is joining us all the way from India. He traveled to India before the shutdown, and he's stuck in India right now. He's not able to come back to Melbourne. But again, Naishad is a career coach who he calls himself as an unemployment warrior, and it is so relevant right now. I mean, with the things that are going around, how to approach job search, what happens in that, how do you brand yourself for job search. So Naishad is all about that. Thanks for joining us, Naishad.
Thank you very much, everyone. And that's right. I'm in India. I don't prefer to be called stuck in India because I'm with my family. I think I'm stuck in the family more than stuck in India. But yeah. So it's we are under complete lockdown. We can only travel in the first week of May. But thank you, Vinesh, for organizing and including me into this awesome group of people. So my background is similar to what Vinesh in a lot of sense, that I'm an engineer, then changed my career after coming to Australia. So Australia has got something that forces people to change their career or find something more meaningful, they can do with their life. So yeah, I primarily work with migrants and international graduates to help them get jobs, build their career, and realize their Australian dream. So yeah, that's what I do.
Thanks, Naisha. Thanks for that introduction. And finally, Jonathan Magby. So I've been into many of his events, and he is a personal branding consultant or a career consultant, as his title says over here. But it's all about personal branding. I mean, personal branding, it's a very fancy term, but it's something that has become very, very necessary and very critical for everyone. I mean, there's no one exempt from that, and it's a really important part of the growth of any person. So thanks, Jonathan, again, for being a part of this.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. So as Vinesh said, my name is Jonathan, and I'm a career consultant. I specialize in professional identity and personal brand management. So I help people figure out what they are and then how to create a compelling story around that. And then not just tell a story, but how to create platforms to raise their or amplify their voice. My big thing is, who enjoys writing cover letters and CVs? Not most of us. So what I prefer to do is build your brand and have those cool jobs come and find you instead through getting known.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Thanks, Jonathan. So let's get into today's event. So if it was a meetup, we would have had a lot more interaction. It could have been a more fun setup, but this is the best thing we can do. So at any moment, if any of our viewers have questions, please put it in the comments on the LinkedIn Live. We'll monitor it. We'll keep track of the questions, and we'll get into that every now and then whenever you have questions, so that we are connected. We have a virtual connection as well. So let me get into the discussion straight away. So this question is for all of you, all of the panelists. Again, this is coming from a background, right, where people think that personal development is not a thing that has to be invested in, or what can coaches do? I mean, there are tons of coaches right now. We have 4 different kind of coaches right in this meeting, and there are many, many other coaches, right? So why do we need coaches at all? And how can you explain that to a normal person, as in why you need a coach? Any one of you can go for it.
And I think it's important to ask our audience. We do have a few people watching us live at the moment, and I think it's important to all of you who's watching us actually answer this question, like, have you ever had a coach? Or you're listening like, oh, no, I can work it out. I can work it out myself. Because we all have this thought every time, and sometimes we do work it out things ourselves. But I think then we really want to master something, and we have a particular goal, and we want to get to it. That's where we usually go and hire the coach.
I think it's like when you're starting a business. Do you learn everything you can about accounting, or do you hire an accountant? Do you learn everything you can about legal, or do you hire a lawyer? You know, the best thing you can be doing is be focusing on the things that make you successful, and let somebody else help you take advantage of that, because that's their strength.
The other thing is, a good coach, many coaches have coaches themselves. And the reason for that is because a lot of coaches have got to the point where they go, I know I can't help myself and I need to come to a higher power, somebody who knows more than me. And that's the same with anybody. A good coach will know how to help you overcome barriers in your career and lead you through that process as well. And hold your hand and guide you through that transformation process to help you get your goal. And they'll ask you a lot of questions around yourself as they're leading it. And the reason you need a coach in many ways is because you do not know what questions you need to be asking yourself. So a lot of coaches have tried and tested kind of formulas and strategies to help people move through their career barriers.
I think that question point is a really important one. One of my intros to people that I coach is, I'm going to be the person that asks you a lot of annoying questions that you wouldn't have thought to ask yourself.
Yeah. So this is especially important in Naishad's case as well, right? Because Naishad, your audience is a slightly different audience. You know, that's I have a similar audience as well. So when it comes to your audience or job seeker audience, they think we pay you this amount and you will get them a job. That's not the way it is, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's one of the commonly asked question. You know, is the results, and I think that is primarily because you know, if you look at gymming or fitness is one of the classic example where people can actually see the visible impact of that. You know, the coaching on it. You know, where in the jobs, you know, it's, you know, I always tell people that I can't guarantee a job because that depends on interviews also. I'm not going to sit in the interview and really watch every word that you say, because that's out of my control, and absolutely out of my control. I can coach you, you know, 10 hours, but who will you be on that day? It is absolutely out of my control. So that's number one. Secondly, is that, you know, why coaching? You know, I myself had you know, a business coach, you know, that I needed, because I had blocks in the way I was thinking about my business. You know, and one of the things that I think everyone should look at is the time. Whether does it reduce the time for you to figure it out by themselves or not? You know, similarly, example, you know, I can finish up with this example that, you know, if my son does not know mathematics, and if I don't know mathematics, then my thing is to turn to a tutor who can really teach him mathematics the way that I am failing to do that. But I think there is something about that I can spend money on my kids' education and do that bit of things, you know, or somebody else needs coaching but except me. I think that just requires a bit of self-awareness on everyone's part, including myself too, that, you know what, I don't know these answers. I might need to reach out to someone and have a conversation with people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the exact same thing that I'm going through as well, right? You know, so the common perception is if you have a problem, Google it and you'll find the answer. I always say, you know, if you have a headache and if you Google it probably say you're going to die tomorrow. That's not the way it is going to be, right? So yes, this world is more connected. There's tons of information out there, but if you don't have the right information, or if you don't have a person that directs you to that information, the journey is going to be really hard. And you know, you will get, you might get there eventually, but just think what would have happened if there is a person who would hold your hands to the destination. That's very important, right?
And frankly, anybody else can just Google the answer. So you're not putting yourself above everybody else if that's your answer to solve the problems.
Yeah, absolutely. Now in this generation, or in the time period that we are going on, another thing is the abundance of coaches right now. I mean, I call myself as a coach as well, even though I don't have much experience, but I've gone through something. I've talked to many people, and I believe that the knowledge that I have is coachable to someone, right? So Jana is a very specialized coach. For example, she focuses on video. Video is her specialization, but she branches over to personal branding as well. So, okay, now a person has decided, okay, I need a coach, but they have no idea who to approach or how to approach. So, what are your thoughts? How does a person approach a particular coach?
I think they firstly need the coach to set up the goals. And then they get the coach to set up the goals, and then they have a goals, and then they can pick exactly coach for every skill they need. Because people who are successful, they actually creating their own educational program.
Yeah, I've had people come to me, and after a discussion, I've gone, I'm not the right coach for you, because what you want isn't what I can give. So it's important to make sure that what you actually want is what you want as well. Like, I've also had people come to me and they thought that they wanted something, which is something that I could give them. But after a few discussions and talking about, okay, well, why do you want that thing that you say you want? You realize that actually they don't want that, they want something else. Yeah. So it's quite a difficult journey to get a coach because of that. You know, if you don't have that self-awareness, because it's not something you've spent time invested in, it's really hard to find the right coach.
I agree. There's many times where people will come to me, and I'm not a one-stop shop, definitely. And I'm not afraid to tell people, hey, look, what you're looking for is outside of the scope. But that's why I partner with a lot of other coaches, because I don't want to say, hey, good luck on your journey. I'd rather say, hey, I'm not the person for you, but here's somebody else that can help you. I've got a relationship with this person. I already know this person. I'm happy to make an introduction for you. And in many cases, those people do the same for me as well. I think when shopping around for a coach, it's like, think about when you shop around for a plumber or an electrician, you usually get you talk to three people. And I think it's a similar kind of approach, is that be clear in your mind what you're looking for, and most importantly, what outcome that you want. So think about your current situation and what you want to transform that into, whether it be yourself or your career or anything else like that. And then go and have a chat to three coaches. Be able to say, hey, this is the challenges that I'm experiencing right now. This is what's led to those challenges. This is how I'm feeling, for example. But ideally, I want to move from this state to this state. Tell me a little bit about your services. How have you helped other people in my situation? So do some comparative analysis as well. Where have you helped? What outcomes have you able to help your clients achieve? And then also another key thing that I think is really, really important is, do you feel a connection with that coach? Is there some chemistry between you? Do you feel like, hey, this person is on the same page as me? They're empathetic. They can hear it, and you know they seem like they're genuine as well. So don't forget, just because they can help you doesn't mean to say that they'd be the person that should. You've got to feel some emotional connection with them as well, especially if you're going to be looking at developing a long-term relationship with a coach.
Totally agree.
I think, I'll probably add on to. Sorry, Jana, go ahead.
No, just then you mentioned the emotional connection. I think it's also important then your coach can challenge you as well. And you should be comfortable with this, and someone can challenge you, and you're comfortable with this person challenging you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the most important aspects of a good coach, is that they're going to call you out on your crap.
And coaching shouldn't be an easy thing. I mean, you're going to be confronted with yourself. Yeah. And I tell my clients that I'm going to confront you with you, but I'm going to do it in a way that it's safe and it's okay to explore. And you're going to grow so much out of this as you gain these insights. But it's not an easy walk in the park thing. But it's well worth it in the end.
Yeah. So just to, I think I'll probably, I think Jonathan and Jana and Andrew highlighted it. One thing that I will mention is have a real engaging conversation with somebody that you want to engage with them. It's like, you tell your doctor, your accountant and your lawyer, what's the real deal here, so that they can help you. I've worked with in Centrelink employment agencies, and when we take on people, when job seekers come in, they don't tell us everything, but after a month we find out, oh God, you've got this barrier, this barrier, this barrier. And if I knew this beforehand, it helps me, because then I know what I'm getting into, and then I know exactly how much do I have to quote you, so that I'm not cutting corners when I'm really coaching you. Secondly, is also ask people for their approach to things. My approach could be different to Jonathan's approach. It's not a wrong approach. It's just different approach.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can engage with Jonathan more than I should, because you think, you know what, I like how Jonathan is thinking about things. And sometimes you think, you know what, yeah, Naishad's approach seems to be more fitting with what I do. So I think it is important to ask that how do you really solve situation like myself? What's your thinking around it? So that also helps you to identify whether this is a great fit for my style or not.
Absolutely.
One other thing you can also do, and this is what I do, is if someone is evaluating my services, I offer to have them talk to one of my previous clients. Because I've got clients who are willing to say, hey, look, Jonathan, if you've got someone who's sitting on the fence and they don't quite know, feel free to use my details. I'm happy to jump on the phone and have a conversation with them and talk about my experience. And I think that's the power of testimonials, listening to other people's experiences. And if the coach is willing to divulge that information, say, yes, here are 2 people or 3 people that are happy to speak to you. Go and have a chat with them. I'll set it up for you. And I think that's how I've managed to have a lot of people come to me going, I've spoken to people who've been through your system. I'm happy to go with it as well. And it removes the risk, because I think a lot of people are worried about the risk of going with the coach, because for a lot of it, it's quite an outlay of money in some circumstances. So you want to know you're going to get back on the investment.
That's an excellent point, Jonathan. Thanks. So we
actually have a few comments coming in, and I think it's a really good comment here that I think we can all address as well. So a few people saying that they have a coach, like Doug saying he's a business coach and he's a coach, and Elizabeth saying that she has a coach, and Carl also saying that he wants a coach who made $1 million. So and give $1 million. So he wants a real experience. So I think it's a really good point here. So I don't think every coach is actually done something. We need to understand. So the coach is not someone who has already done something and teaching other person to do the same thing. So not everyone made the $1 billion, but business coach can teach someone to make this $1 billion. So I think that's a good point here. We're not choosing the coaches based on what they've done. We're choosing coaches what they've done for their clients.
Yeah, because to be frank, the way that they did it in the past may not be the way that works now. Like I've heard plenty of stories of coaches who were successful 20 years ago using a business model that just wouldn't work in 2020.
So keep the comments coming. Love to hear more. That keeps us more connected. And please keep the comments coming. So let's move on. Now let's talk a bit about the situation that we are in right now. I personally think that this is the best time, and this is the most important time that you invest in personal development, anything of that sort, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
This is the time to shine above everybody else. This is the time to show that you are the person who can succeed when other people are not being as successful. This is the perfect opportunity to show what you're made of.
Absolutely.
I think absolutely, and I think for a lot of time people are having a bit of a downtime now as well. And this gives, it's very rare in our lives because it's so hustle and bustle every day that we don't get this kind of gift that's almost been given to us in some way. And it's a disguised gift that can actually stop us and go, what the heck am I doing here in my career? And it's time for some self-reflection as well. And I think this is a good time to think, what is my competitive advantage? What is it that makes me valuable to an organization? What is it that I bring to the table? And this is times to kind of confront yourself and to start having those internal dialogues. Because I tell you what, in the next few months, when this storm is blowing over, it's going to get hellishly competitive out there. And in my experience, because my background was working as a recruitment consultant, in my experience, what I've noticed that it's not always the person who has the most education and the most skills and the most experience that wins the job. It's the one who can tell their story the best. And I've seen people who are less experienced and less qualified get awesome jobs because they were able to communicate their brand. They'd essentially become authorities on themselves and can communicate this. And we've been given this opportunity now to start thinking about ourselves and building up our own brand story. So when the job market picks up, you're already ahead of the competition because you know yourself. So that's the situation I kind of see a lot of us in right now.
And to be frank, a lot of us have just gained 2 hours a day back because we're not commuting.
Absolutely.
I actually would love to see, like, we still have about 16 people watching us live on LinkedIn. So I'm encourage you guys jump in the comments, because do you actually have time to reflect on what you're doing? Because like, I can definitely say I wouldn't say I had a lot of time, but I definitely took the step back. Then all this started, and really reflect what's been important for me and what's not. And that's such a great time to actually realize that some things that disappear from your routine, you don't even miss them. You don't even miss them. Like, before you thought it's an essential part, but now you suddenly realize, I'm not even gonna back to this. And I think that's a great time now to actually reflect what you're missing the most and what you actually really wanna go back doing. And
Absolutely.
get rid of all of this and don't continue on autopilot.
Can I offer an alternative view on this? Because I've been myself have been reflecting a lot, and not many people are aware of. But when I was here, I've essentially lost my job while I'm here, right? Not many people know that I work full time too. And there is, I see this often on LinkedIn, and I feel that there is a lot of pressure on people for two reasons. One is, I see a post recently about that if you don't come out of this by learning a skill, you lack discipline, not time. I find that very, very, very offensive. Because not everybody has that luxury that the other person has. Now, I'm pretty sure that all of five of us can work virtually, right? And we can still continue to get the revenue that's required. But there are many people who can't really do the work virtually, right? So at the same time, I think I also wanted to emphasize that it is fine, whatever that you're feeling. If you feel like crap, it is fine too. If you feel that if you want to reflect, that's fine too. I think we want to be more conscious that people are going through various emotions from one extreme to the other extreme in a day or in a moment. And that's what I want to really address to. I'm not saying that we should not really give hope or new ideas or perspectives to people, but at the same time, we all, especially in my communication, I've been trying to be very mindful of that I'm not imposing that response, because thinking the positive is also a response, that I don't want to really experience the crap that I'm experiencing, and I just want to jump at and tell people, because there's an expectation that Naishad will be smiling, Naishad will be positive 24/7. He's a battery that lasts forever. I will never feel crap, and probably people expect the same thing from every one of you as well. So I think I really want to convey this, that whichever that you are feeling by listening to this, by watching this afterwards, that you're feeling like crap, you just don't feel like that's fine too. So I think that's number one that I really wanted to convey. And yes, it you can, then once you accept, then you can turn this the way you want to turn this. And there are enormous, I think people have been very generous right now at this time, giving away many things, courses on Coursera and some amazing places, right? I've recently been Victorian Chamber of Industry, asked me to, give away 1 year free membership to them. I didn't even ask them, but they're very generous, right? So I see that now. But once I got over that phase of that, I'm here, I'm not going to move out. I can't even bloody move out of my apartment block. Forget about anything else. I'm just confined in the house, right? And then when I accepted it, then there is a possibility. Then there is open something. Now maybe what I can do. So I think people have to go through their own process. But I think I fully agree with Andrew, Jonathan, and Yana that see if you can find something and pivot the time, but do it in a healthy way. Just because someone's asking you to do it, don't do it,
Yeah.
because you will regret that. You will not be enjoying the process.
I'd like to.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to say, very, very good point, Naushad. I'm really happy you brought that up. What I'm seeing right now on LinkedIn is everyone positioning themselves as somebody who knows how to navigate the situation that we're in. Everyone's positive, and for crying out loud, no one has a bloody clue what's going on out there. We're all just muddling our way through this. So don't listen to what everybody says. And some people are saying, it's if you don't come out of this better, then there's something wrong with you. That sort of, don't take that crap on board. What I'm trying to say here is, there's got to be a right time for you to develop and for you to extend and evolve. And if now's not the right time, don't put so much pressure on yourself. The right time will come when you're meant to do or go through that get that coaching. Just because you've got a bit of time on your hands, focus on other things. I mean, that's what I'm doing. I'm having a great time outdoors right now in my back garden.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing that conversation out, Naishad and Jonathan. Actually, the quote that Naishad mentioned was something that I actually put out in every meetup, and now I realize that while that is a good way to put it, the first step is always accept the fact that shit is happening. Let's go in this together. Okay, now what can we do now? That's where that point should come. But accepting the fact instead of piling up more peer pressure can backfire completely. So thanks for that insights. And as always, we have about 11, 12 viewers. Please share your thoughts on this. We'd like to hear from you as well. Now, okay, so this question is for Naishad. Naishad, I know your and my target audience is mostly migrants who come over here and how they sail together through this job search scene. But at this point of time, or not even at this point of time, everyone should be prepared with this kind of scenario, right? I know no one thinks about job search unless you are in that situation, right? But shouldn't everyone be ready or be prepared to say, that's the age we are in. We are in such a volatile situation. So what are your thoughts on that?
So the question is about what people can do right now who are looking for work?
No, not just now. My question is job search. Most of us give less importance to job search and the process involved in it. And we start preparing for it when we get into that situation, whatever it is. It could be migration, it could be you're laid off or anything of that sort. But it doesn't happen just like that, right? You have to, if you are disciplined or if you had a set of things that you were doing, it would have been better. So what are your thoughts on that? Or is it like you get into it when shit happens?
I think what I was talking to a career strategist on my LinkedIn Live, and he pointed out one of a great insight. Is that the changes were happening. I think we are all in front of our eyes. Artificial intelligence, machine learning, robotics, and I think the changes were happening dramatically under the surface. What COVID has done is that apart from that changes, this has absolutely blown that cover. And now we are confronted with new realities. So I think those people who are, let's take one group of people who are currently working, but they are concerned about what might happen. So I think usually our response to, if you respond to that with a fear, you're most likely to to react to that in a way which is not going to be useful to you, right? So I think this is a great time for you to reflect, as Jonathan mentioned. And reflection is very powerful. I think there's an element of spirituality also on that, but if we don't go into that path, I think reflection is important. But but at the same time, you reflect it with someone, because if you reflect it just by yourself, you'll end up refurbishing the same thoughts over and over again. Oh, I'm a test analyst and I can't do anything else, I can't see anything out, and I'm just going to be this way, this. So you're kind of going into a cycle of worry, and then starting to feel that now I have to hang on to this, forget about everything else. Now to hang on, I'll get a more certification, I'll do this X and Y. So I think it is more important to reflect, but reflection is just a word until you really engage into this. I've seen my dad doing 10, 11 years back, when he started to do meditation. He would sit for 5 minutes. Now he sits for half an hour, 10 years, right? And he just gets into meditation more very quickly. So I think that requires practice. Similar to that, I think it is important for those people who are on the edge, is to really engage in the conversation. Whether you like it or don't like it, really engage into the conversation. Find out the future of your industry. Talk to people. Don't sit at home and then read just articles and make the mind that the future is all in artificial intelligence, right? It may not be. Even if it may not attract you. So go and talk to people. So I think there is a big need of people talking to each other, not out of curiosity. Because, I would just want to find out what's been happening in this industry. So I think that's what people can do. And second is perpetual learning. I think we are all kind of a student of that. And I really like the idea that Reid Hoffman talks about in his book Startup of You, is that we all have to be permanent beta. It's like paradoxical. You can't be permanent beta, right? But he talks about that because he feels that there is a need for you to continuously learn. But you can only learn if you're engaged, if you're talking with people, if you're absorbing information, if you're listening to people, if you're listening to the industry. So these are a couple of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Golden thoughts, Naisha. I mean, that's what the feeling that I get too. I mean, we should consistently look into what we need and where we are heading to, rather than just flowing. That's probably no longer the way. I don't think there is a safe haven anymore. Probably 10, 15 years back, there was. You be a software engineer, you might have a job for a long time, but that it has evolved. The market has evolved, and things have changed. Thanks a lot, Naisha, for that. A question for you, Jana. This might be the most popular question as well. As a video coach, what are the common mistakes people do? What is the funniest mistake that you've seen people do? And what are the simple adjustments that we can do to improve our presence online?
I think there's two things here. Like, firstly, we definitely see that people doing more videos at the moment. As soon as it's everyone stayed at home, everyone decide like, okay, that's the time that I need to do video. And I think we are forgiving at the moment about the quality of videos, because we do wanna get relevant information and so on, and we can be forgiving. But I think, again, like as you mentioned, like once all it's over, the standards go back. And the video, it's nothing really, that overwhelming about the video. Video is just a different communication tool. And then you're deciding how you communicate with your audience. You need the overall plan. Yeah. So the common mistake is it's not just randomly going live on LinkedIn or popping few videos here and there. The common mistake is actually have a strategy around your communication with your audience. And video is just a different medium. So, and if you look at your whole communication holistically, like, I communicate only through video with my audience because I'm a video coach. but you obviously don't have to. You incorporate it in your post and photos and so on. But the main thing is have a strategy around it. Who is your audience? What you're trying to achieve? How you want to be perceived? How you want your audience to feel? Then they're connecting with you, and are you actually engaging with your audience? I had an interview with Carol a few days ago, and she had this perfect quote: "The common mistake in communication is the illusion that communication has happened." And and that's, we see it online so common. We think we're communicating, but do we actually listening? Do we actually listening back to your audience? Do we actually getting the feedback? The same communication principles applies face to face and online. And video is just this great medium to communicate. But then you decide to do video, you need to remember that it's not only your words important. There is a whole bunch of all this nonverbal communication, your background, your lighting. It's all need to be taken consideration, because that's how people gonna perceive you, and that's how people gonna remember you. And if it's a cold audience, if the people who never met you before, this first impression when they saw you in the video, that's gonna be this first impression. Yeah, so it will be your first impression. And if you're just rocking up in your pajamas and putting your laptop on the on the thing, and or doing those ones, or I don't know what else you've been doing there, that will be your first impression.
Yeah, excellent point, Jana. I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of small adjustments that we can do to improve. I mean, you gave us a live lesson to 5 of us on how to improve. So excellent points on that. Jonathan, tough question for you. What is a personal brand?
Wow. Okay. Personal branding it's actually an umbrella term, and it's quite complex. A personal brand is really about, I kind of bring it into this. It's about your, what is it that you bring to the table? In other words, it's your skills and abilities. It's how that translates into what makes you valuable for an organization. It's how you go about positioning yourself in the market. It's about building and managing a reputation. It's how you tell your story. It's about how you productize and package yourself, but also how you go about self-marketing. And Jana was talking about it in self-marketing through the power of video is a fantastic way to do this. But if I had to kind of distill it down, personal branding is about creating a unique personal or professional identity, mainly around your leading attributes. And it's also, as Jana said as well, it's also about managing the perceptions of your audience in order to make them feel a certain way about you. And it's about connecting with people on an emotional level. So that's really what it is in a nutshell, is about your own personal and professional story and how you go about communicating that, at the same time managing how you want people to perceive you. And a lot of times I work with my clients to say, hey, how do you think you are perceived out there? And what do you think has contributed towards this either positive perception or maybe a negative perception? So that could be in the words that you use. It's in the way that you conduct yourself in terms of your behaviors. It's how you interact with other people that a lot of people aren't even conscious of. So really, personal branding in a lot of ways is about becoming more professionally self-conscious, not in a negative way, but in a positive way, so that you can essentially first and foremost become an authority on you. How's that sound?
Beautiful way to put it. I'll just add a question to that as well. Personal branding was not much of a thing probably a decade ago. What's changing, or what's happening right now? Why is everyone getting into personal, and why is it so important right now? What's changed?
I think the workforce has changed, and I think the way we conduct work has changed as well. I think in the last 20 years, the job market as things have become more global, things have become a lot more competitive. And we've been sold a formula that, that was been passed down for generations, that you leave school, you go to university, you study, you get a good job, you climb up the ladder, you get to become successful, and you retire comfortably. And that was a great formula for kind of our parents and our grandparents. but times are different now. So yes, all of those things still apply, but now we need to add a different dimension to reflect. And I think now what we need to help us get that competitive advantage is, one, have a good, strong brand, be conscious of your brand, and also strategically and consciously create the brand that you want. That's the first thing. And the second thing now that is going to help us is have a network to tap into as well. I know a lot of people who've never have to look for a job because their network actually brings them opportunities to them. So I think we need to embrace kind of a new formula for success. And I think having a good, strong brand is one of those things that can really help you become successful or get you towards your goals as well.
An excellent way to put it, Jonathan. Thanks for that. Question for you, Andrew. Like I said in the beginning, typical software engineers, they're good at what they do. They're climbing up the ladder, but there is a point that they feel stuck. So what are the common challenges they face, and when does a person say, "Hey, it is time that I do something"? So what's the process over there?
A lot of people come to me at the point in their career where people that are younger than them are getting promoted past them.
Yeah.
They've reached the point where the skills that they have will make them successful. They've reached their career cap and they don't know what to do about it. And I'm sure, as I can see Jonathan nodding, this is a very, very common issue throughout a lot of industries. Like, technology is not special with this, but I think people in technology, the people that are drawn to technology careers, tend to be the ones that put a lot of focus on the things that they know, on their knowledge base. And so they don't put as much focus on the other things, the soft skills, the communication skills, the influence skills, the leadership skills, these things which are even more important as we progress through our careers. Earlier on, when you're a junior engineer, you're thinking about the next 5 seconds. Does my code compile? And that's all you're thinking about. It's pretty much 100% hard skills and pretty much in your immediate future. As you progress through your career, the amount of time that you should be spending on other things, such as your communication skills, such as your people skills, this starts increasing. But a lot of people don't recognize that. If you think about a senior engineer, somebody who probably should be doing some coaching and some mentoring with their team underneath them, probably isn't doing that because it's not made clear to them that's their role and that's what they should be doing. And so they tend to think, okay, well, I'm going to do what I'm good at. I'm good at technology. I'm good at writing code. I'm good at configuring servers. So I'm going to focus on that. And what happens is people around them who are naturally good at those other things, at those people skills, at those communication skills, they start getting promoted past you. And what people do, sorry, go on.
No, carry on. I've got a bit to add to that, but yeah, sorry, carry on.
So what tends to happen at this point is people go, I'm not being as successful as I think I should be. There are people that are being promoted past me. What do I need to do to be successful? And people's natural response to this is to look at what made them successful in the past, which is their technology skills. It's their hard skills, rather than looking at what should make them successful in the future, which are their people skills, their soft skills. And people double down on those hard skills. They go to those conferences, they get those certifications that Nashad talk about, and they try and get an improvement in their hard skills. And yet they still don't progress in their career because it's not the thing that will make them successful in the future. And that's what the major mistake that a lot of people in every industry make, but especially these people in technology. And I spent the first 15 years of my career being a software developer and a leader of software developers. And I saw myself making this mistake early on in my career. And so, people come to me quite often realizing, and I help them realize that these skills that they need are those communication skills. And it's so interesting to hear this discussion going on, because a lot of the stuff we're working on is at the core the same thing. Like, even the stuff that I work on with people has some elements of that personal branding. I can totally see how somebody using both Jonathan and I, it would be so complementary, because there's so much of what I teach, which is about what you want to be known for in your organization. if you want to be a leader in technology, you don't always want to be known for being the best technologist. You want to be known for being the best people leader.
Yeah.
I totally agree with you. You're talking my language completely, Andrew. I see so many technologists or people who go, I call them certification collectors. They go and they collect every certification. They've got everything. I said, has it actually brought you any more career success? Have you managed to progress into an area that you couldn't have got beforehand? Have you got any greater salary? And most times they go, no, they haven't. I said, what you've done is you've amplified your ability to be a really good foot soldier. You're a worker, but you're not perceived as being a leader. So you're not taking the initiative on anything to lead. And what you find is that these people are really good technologists. They're really good coders. They're really good infrastructure engineers, but they're head down, bum up, and they get lost in the system because they're not amplifying their voice. They've not decided, I want to be known as not only a good technical person, but someone who can lead, whether it be through thoughts or opinions, crisis management, people leadership, taking a business through a transformation, or taking something that wasn't working in the business and now making it work. And there's so many different aspects, whether it be culture, whether it be connection with people in an organization. I say if you want to build your brand, you have to go outside your role.
Yes.
You have to reach out into the wider company and industry as well.
That's a really, really important point. A lot of people, I think, when they want to get promoted within their organization, think that what they should be doing is being very, very, very good at the things that are in their role description.
Absolutely.
And that is such a crucial mistake. If you do that, I had somebody that came to me, and that he engaged me because he knew that his boss was going to be moving on in 6 months, and he wanted his boss to see him as the person to take on the mantle. And what I worked on him with is not being really, really good at the job he was doing, but helping his boss see him as the logical progressor, as the logical person to pick up that mantle. Because those are two different things. Helping your boss understand that you can take over from what they're doing is fundamentally different than doing the job that's on your role description.
And what I also say that's really good is if you want to get into your boss's job, go to HR and see if you can get a job description of that job, that next level up, and going, what have I got? What am I missing? And how do I start acting and sounding like somebody in that job already? What do I need doing now so that I raise my visibility? That's not part of my job. And getting hold of a job description a couple of levels above you is a fantastic way to start plotting out a course.
Totally. Excellent conversation, Andrew and Jonathan. We have a question from Kate. That's for Andrew. You said about gaining visibility across the wider business outside of your software development job. But how do we do that when we are at home?
Really good question. A lot of these challenges that were already tricky are going to become trickier in this scenario. But in other ways, this is also going to help. Your ability to use remote communication is going to make some of those things easier and some of those things harder. But the core problem is the same. The core problem is going, what am I good at outside of my role description? What am I good at outside of the things that I'm doing on a daily basis? How can I make an impact on this organization outside of my day-to-day role? So what things interest you? What things excite you? What things, like Jonathan was saying, do you want to be known for? And then find ways to get involved in that. Are there activities going on that are panels, that are discussions, that are groups of people that are trying to make an active change in the organization that are related to what you're doing? These are the things to try and become aware of and trying to get involved in. Sometimes that can be a discussion with your boss to let them know what your end goals are. That can be tricky sometimes. It depends on the dynamic between you and your boss. But it's really about finding out what's going on in your organization outside of what your day-to-day job is, which is a lot of talking to people, and it's a lot of strategic conversations. One of the things that technical people are actually pretty good at is strategy. They don't think they are, but when you think about it, you can take a logical, functional approach to people in the same ways you can take a logical, functional approach to software.
That's actually a really good way to put it. Thanks for that, Andrew. We also have a question from Shika. This is a tough one, and probably Naisha can take on this. Now there are lots of international students who are facing a gap before landing up their first job. How to address that in a positive manner?
I don't know whether what's positive and negative. I think the question is how do you address that?
Yes.
I think one of the things to understand is that Australian employers are one of the most tolerant and open employers out there. I don't think so. Employers or recruiters mind employment gap if you're able to explain that. Now, sometimes explaining the gap, is tricky if you want to address that on a resume. I think cover letters sometimes really help, people to say, I've been involved into X, Y, and Z activities, to be able to do it. I think it goes to one of the main observation is that if you feel that employment gap is a problem, it will actually be a problem. I don't think so. It's a problem for people. I have consistently cited an example of somebody who had 12 years of employment gap. 12
Okay.
years there was complete blip, and he was able to successfully return to work without much difficulty because things go wrong in people's life. It's not a disruptions do happen. So I think first and foremost that if you think that there is a problem, you'll actually make that as a problem. It will manifest in your because you're trying to hide it. No, I'm not going trying to hide it. Well, I was I finished my engineering or whichever degree. Then I was busy with getting my points for my permanent residency. So I had to appear for my PT, and to sustain myself, I continued to work in Woolworths for this time. And I've also done X project in the meanwhile. I did an internship in the meanwhile. So I think there are many things that you can explain. You know, the point is to explain. And second point, which I think I've touched upon a little bit in one of my posts yesterday, is try it out. There is no magic bullet. I wish I can give you an exact answer that will impress the recruiter. No, I have not found an exact answer, right? So, and neither you will find an exact answer. I think people are afraid to experiment and
Yeah.
talk to people because of the fear of rejection. Now you are being rejected anyway by not trying out. So the first thing is pick up a phone call, and one of the simplest way you can do it, ask a friend to be a recruiter and one hell of a recruiter and ask those tough questions. And
Yeah.
then you try to persuade that person, right? Without losing your mind. Persuade that person, see what comes up for you, right? Because people think that that's one of the things, is that I'm pretty sure when my 13-year-old, 14-year-old wanted to ride a bike, right? First time I was scared because he is going to injure himself, right? But then I have to go and try it out, see what happens. Let's try it out. Okay, I'm here, but I want you to try it out. Similarly, I want you to try it out. Talk to other people. Talk to other people. Frame your answer. Write your answer. Read that. Think, see if that makes sense to you or not. And then do a mock. Then go out, practice. Fail, come back, improve, go out and do practice. I don't think so. There's anything else that I can add to that.
I totally agree with you. Sorry, when I was a recruiter, because that was my background, I would often ask that question. I'm looking for the story. Two of the things I'm looking for is, I want to know is when you had that gap, what's your story behind that gap? We wanting to know as recruiters, one, did you sit on the couch and play PlayStation for those 2 years and binged on Netflix? And that's the biggest alerts. And most times that's not the case. Look, life happens. It happens whether you like it or not. And sometimes we have to go back overseas to look after our parents if they're aging and they're getting sick. Or maybe we've got sick. I mean, I had 18 months off work 15 years ago. And couldn't work. And did that have a bearing on my career and getting a job when I came back? Absolutely not, because I knew the story I needed to tell and I was open and authentic about it. And you know what? Hardly anybody asked me why there was a gap on my CV of 18 months. They just kind of glossed over it. And I remember being in recruitment and often just glancing over it and go, oh, you had a bit of a gap here. I'll tell you a story. I remember one lady, she had a 2-year gap on her CV. And I was coaching her, and I noticed that she didn't talk about it in her CV. And I said to her, okay, so tell me what happened in those 2 years. And she said, I went traveling. I said, okay, you went traveling for 2 years. That sounds really, really interesting. Tell me what you did. She goes, well, actually, I was in the Amazon forests and I was helping make a documentary with BBC crew. I know, that was my face as well, Vinesh. I was like, oh my God, you've had some life. That's really awesome. You should be putting that into your CV because that's what makes you stand out. Those little breaks that we have, that can really, really change someone's opinion and go, this person sounds really interesting. Let's bring them in. Let's have a chat with them. So, you don't want to highlight something that you don't have, but you do want to amplify the things that you do. And I think it's what Naishad said. Sometimes it isn't an issue at all. We make it an issue in our own minds. And that's, and so many times people come to me and they go, they didn't even ask me why I had a gap in my CV. I said, because they're not interested really. And if you've got like a 3 to 6 month gap, no big deal. But I've worked with a lot of mums, for example, who are returning to the workforce after sometimes 10 years. The biggest problem that they have is not the gap, but their way they feel about that gap. And it's not actually a problem in many cases. It's their own sort of interpretation of, and kind of how that gap has impacted often many times their self-esteem. But it's not an issue at all.
Yeah. Thanks for that question, Shika. So please keep the questions coming. We'll probably have one more round of discussion and then move to the Q&A and wrap this up. Now, this is open to all of you. I mean, we've talked about what coaches can do, how things can change, how it can impact you. But everyone loves to hear stories. Now, what is one interesting transformation that happened in to your clients, and how did it change their perspective? Because people think, you pay this, you take your services, and then magic will happen. But it's not as easy as that. But when that magic happens, it is really cool magic, right? So if you could all share some interesting stories from your experience so far.
Who's going to go first?
Jana, you can go for it. Jana has been silent for some time. Go for it, Jana.
Oh, I was hoping someone else will go. I was still starting with my story.
I can go. I think one of the recent thing that we did last year was the Australia's Got Fresh Talent, where the idea was to help migrants pitch and turn the table a little bit in the favor of the migrants, and where we had one of the migrant, exceptionally talented project manager, and she was a returning to work mom. So she had two challenges. One was she did not have any experience in Australia, and also there was a gap of 5-6 years. And then eventually she was looked at by a recruiter from one of the big grocery supermarket, and then she asked her for a coffee. She saw her pitch and was very impressed, asked her for a coffee. Next day she met her again, and then she slowly introduced her to the boss, and her boss was really very, very impressed with the experience that she was bringing to the table. So to cut the story short, she was then offered a job as a project manager. Now remember, she did not even go for any other interviews apart from this, and I could see that there was a genuine impact on these professionals. Now, not that she will probably not experience any challenges in the work, but I think she got the job that at the level that she was looking for. It's a different sort of stream of IT, but she was up to the challenge, and she was able to persuade the employer that yes, she was up to the challenge. So I think that is one of the recent most satisfying experience, and see the kind of change that it created in her life was pretty satisfying. Yeah.
That's
I remember that event.
I have been a part of both of your events, and that's where I actually met Jonathan for the first time. So we have history over there as well. So yeah, what others?
I can tell a story. Probably one of my favorites is that I was working with a guy a little while ago, and he came to me going, look, I've really stagnated in my role. I've been in the same company for over 10 years. and I haven't been able to move in my company, and I really don't know how to go about selling myself. I don't know how about I don't know what my value is, and I'm really struggling to articulate that. I think I'm really good at my job. And so what we did was we took him through a process of kind of deconstructing him and I working together. And it's a very kind of structured process of unpacking you to figure out what is your professional identity. And that's the foundation of a brand, is to figure out what am I actually branding. So we did this with him and I, and through the kind of a structured process. And he realized just how much wealth of experience and capability that he had. And it was like a major epiphany moment. He was like, crikey, I'm actually way better than I thought I was, now that I can see all of my capabilities mapped out in front of me, and it's in front of me in black and white. Anyway, when I learned what his salary was, I was shocked. I was really shocked, and he hadn't moved from that salary in a long time. And it wasn't the best salary, and I knew what other people at his level were getting way more. So it was a case of helping him put together a really good brand story. But through that whole process, his self-esteem grew, and that within 3 months, he had moved into a new job with a new company. He got a $50,000 pay increase. That was $50,000. That was a 100% pay increase compared to what he was currently on. And the biggest thing is that he goes, why didn't I do this sooner? Why didn't I come to a coach sooner? And we worked out that he could have done this 6 or 7 years earlier, and he lost out on about $250,000 of missed salary because he felt that he lacked something. He hadn't lacked anything. He just lacked professional self-awareness. He didn't know how awesome he already was and couldn't tell it. It had a huge, huge bearing on his self-esteem, on his income, on the job that he went for. And the guy's he's just in a different place completely. And that's probably one of the closest stories that really kind of makes me think, I love what I'm doing here, and I love helping people, understand and have those epiphany moments and get more money, get the money they deserve in many cases, but also get into jobs that give them a greater sense of satisfaction and fulfillment because they're actually at the right level of job that is appropriate for their area. Because so many times people undersell themselves. Time and time again, they undersell themselves, and there's no reason to do that once they've figured out what their capabilities and, more importantly, the value that they bring to an organization. That's my story.
So good to hear that. Andrea and Jana, your turn now.
I'll go. First of all, Jonathan, I really like that story. I think one of the questions I get asked a lot is like, why is coaching worth the money? Because let's be frank, it's not cheap. But when you look at how it can shortcut your progress in your career and you amortize that cost over 4 or 5 years, the returns are some of the best returns.
Yeah.
And my story is a guy came to me, a senior engineer, and it was reasonably interesting for me because he came to me and said, I don't want to move into leadership, but what I do want is I want to be more influential in the role that I'm doing. He wanted to have more impact, wider impact within the business, deeper impact within the business. And so the first thing I did with him was work with him on understanding why he wanted this. This is one of the things that I always spend the first 2-3 sessions working on, is to really understand somebody's goals. Because to give you a reason on why this is important, I've had 2 people come to me in the past. Both of them say that their ultimate long-term goal is to be rich, is to earn a lot of money. But when you dig into the reason why, under there were 2 fundamentally different underlying reasons. The first person wanted to be rich because to them it meant financial security, it meant stability. They'd come from a poor family, their upbringing, they didn't have a lot of money. And so for them to have a lot of money meant stability. Somebody else, the reason they wanted to earn a lot of money was because they wanted choices. To them, money equated to being able to choose what they wanted in their life. But both of them had presented with the same reason in the beginning, which was to be rich. When you actually break down the reasons like that, that's when you can really help somebody achieve what they want. Because if the person that said that the reason why they wanted to earn a lot of money was to be stable, The worst thing I could have done was to recommend that they become a contractor or a consultant. It would have earned them a lot of money, but it wouldn't have given them what they actually wanted under that, which was the stability. Because let's be frank, being a contractor and a consultant, especially right now, is not a stable role. But for that person that wanted choices, that could have been the right option to take, because it would have given them a lot of flexibility and a lot of choices. So this person that came to me as a senior engineer dug into what he wanted, dug into and realized the deep reasons why what he wanted was actually what he needed, and then helped him achieve that through giving him the skills to be more influential in the organization, helping him take a strategic approach to his relationships with people. Because a lot of making your mark on an organization is the people other than you in that organization and what you mean to those people, what those people think of when they think of your name. And that's what I worked with him on. And this person, I started working with him 8 months ago. He was a senior engineer in the organization. Right now, as we speak, his CTO is on holiday, and he is being acting CTO while his CTO is on holiday. This is a person that didn't want to move into leadership.
That's awesome. That's a really good story. And I mean, senior engineer to CTO, it's crazy. It's crazy. Thanks for sharing that.
8 months.
You're done, Jana.
My turn. I was just trying to choose the story, but I guess so. What people come to me because they want a video, because they want to film the video. But in reality, it's not the video that they what they want. They think they come for the video, but it's also it's about actually meeting themselves, I would say, because a lot of people don't like to see themselves on the video.
Absolutely.
And then people actually start, reflecting how they look in the video and, what they're trying, how you want to perceive and stuff. They actually discovering themselves as well. And this is a great side effect from the video coaching. And what one of my clients, she wanted to do a video about her how she loves fitness, but she was working in the artificial intelligence testing area, but she wanted to do the video about her hobby, about her weightlifting. But what we've done instead of just doing one video about her hobby, we decided to create, I decided, okay, so how we can actually create a series of videos where we can actually connect your learnings in the gym with your learnings as a specialist in artificial intelligence, which is, at the first glance, it sounds completely different areas. But we've done this, and we just did the metaphoric examples, what's worked with her in the gym and what with her in her job. And that brings a lot of personality into her content, because people want to see people who are passionate about something. And what happened, some of your clients actually extended the contract with the company, because they said, oh, you're so inspiring. We saw your video, you're so inspiring. We just want to keep working with your company. And sometimes that's a question. Sometimes we get so into what actually our software is doing and what's the features and things like this. Yes, of course, it's important, but people buy from people. And no one cancel the personality.
That's a really good side effect, Jana, I would say. Yeah. So thanks for all those inputs. Let's go into Q&A. I couldn't find any questions on LinkedIn, but YouTube has a question, and this is an interesting one. This is from Mayank. I have a question that I'm working on my video resume these days, as everything is changing around us, and so I thought to change the procedure to apply. So what are the aspects of that? What can he include in a video resume? And as a recruiter, Jonathan, or in the industry, Naisha or Andrew, is that really a thing? And how can they bring the best about a video resume?
Do you want to take that, Naisha?
I think the idea of video resume is awesome. I'm quite a fan. The biggest challenge is to get people to view that. That's the biggest challenge.
Yeah.
If you got 100 LinkedIn connection, don't bother. Unless you can rope in Steven Spielberg to have a great, story. Because what you're doing is you're putting a lot of effort where you can't get people to see that content. So that's the biggest challenge that I see with video. Now, let's imagine that you've decided to do a video. Think about what I suggest is go and search for Guy Kawasaki's 9-slide model to pitching. He created 9 slides, and that's one of the formula that we used when we did our Australia's Got Fresh Talent. She's on similar formula of minimum information but maximum communication. You don't have to worry about the slides, but you got to really tell a very powerful, engaging story. Which Jonathan really talks about is that you really start with a hook point. If you listen to one of the Sudeep's pitch, he says he was a database doctor, right? And he explains the rationale behind it in 30 seconds. That what really fascinates him. That itself is enough hook for people to say, I want to now listen more because that sounds interesting. He's just not saying that, hey, I'm an Oracle developer, I can have 5 years of experience. People just switched off, say, you know what, I get that, right? So that's number one. Secondly, is to try it out, experiment. Okay, before you even post it, experiment, show it to other people. I don't worry about. There are whiteboard animation, CVs out there that you can reach out to people on Freelancer and other websites that people can make those. The most important thing is to be able to draw people to watch that. That's the biggest challenge, because if you're going to rely on that, you will put there and it will go viral, and then eventually people, then their expectation will fall flat. So that's what my few suggestions are.
I think a lot of what we're talking about here is advice that I give every single job seeker, is about doing everything you can to change your name from text on a page to an emotional reaction. And if you can do that during the recruitment process, then anything you can do there that makes you the person that, makes them pause a fraction of a second when they see your name, makes them engage with what you're doing. That's all we're talking about here. Video CVs, video resumes are a way to do that, but there are a ton of other ways. The simplest one is to just pick up the phone and talk to the recruiter. And it's a spectrum from that to what we're talking about here.
I always say, a lot of people, I like what you said there, Andrew. A lot of people go, yeah, but what happens if I get rejected? It's like, well, put it this way. Right now, you don't have any standing with that person. You're at the bottom rung, right? If they say no, you're still at the bottom rung. You haven't changed anything. At the same time, you haven't lost anything either. You see? If they say yes, well, then you're one step up. Don't be afraid to the no's. I remember years ago, I'll give you an example. Years ago, I had two when I was in recruitment, actually career coaching, I had 2 software devs that knew each other and both wanted jobs, and I would get them both in for coaching. And I said to them, okay, none of you guys, your activity level in terms of applying for jobs has dropped off considerably. Why has that? And they go, well, I'm afraid of rejection, so I haven't been applying for jobs. I said, okay, I'm going to put you guys in a competition with each other. I want you to go and collect as many no's as you can. And the person who gets the most no's, I'll buy you a box of beer. I don't know what it is, all right? Within 2 weeks, both of those guys were hired. Because they were in competition to collect. All it was just taking their fear and just turning it around and gamifying their fear. And I couldn't believe it. Both of them landed. One landed a JavaScript role, one landed a .NET role. And it was amazing. And they go, I would never have done that if I hadn't, because I was too scared of the rejections. Now I want to embrace the rejection. My thing is go out and embrace the rejection. The worst they can say is no. And that's the same thing that happens when you want to connect with people on LinkedIn. People go, I don't try and connect with people on LinkedIn because they might, what happens if they don't accept my connection? great. If they don't accept your connection, don't take it personally. They don't know you from a bar of soap. Just go and collect the yeses. But sometimes you have to collect a lot of no's before getting the yes. So I always say, if you throw enough balls in the air, someone's going to catch one eventually. You got to keep throwing them up.
Yeah.
And coming back to the video resume idea. So from my point, like, I'm not a recruiter, and I'm not working in any recruitment industry or anything like this. So majority of my clients would be still business owners. But like, just from my perspective, how I see it, like, then if you're filming a video resume, so before you film any video, you're asking yourself why you're filming it and who you're filming it for. So you're filming video for recruiter. Recruiters, in my opinion, are people who time poor. Do they have time watch 3 minutes video that gonna talk about the experience if they can read it, like scan it at 20 seconds on your resume? So I think it's coming from this perspective. The purpose, how I can see it, the purpose of video resume is show your personality. Show your personality, show maybe your passions, or like show what you stand for. And I believe it needs to be like really short. Again, I don't believe in the power in one video. So if we're talking about LinkedIn, it needs to be drips of content. It needs to be few videos. It can't be just one video that you're hoping that recruiters will watch. If we're talking about sending it in an email or sending it in a message, so again, I think it needs to be more like a cover letter rather than resume, where you shooting a personalized video for particular recruiter, saying that's why I'm so excited, like I would love to work here because blah blah blah, or things like this. I even send sometimes personalized videos to people in the message on LinkedIn, which can be creepy for some people, and probably not every recruiter wanna get like millions of the videos in their messages. But why not to try? That could be one option. Once I needed to get to one person in a particular organization, and I sent personalized video to all people in this organization till that person get in touch with me. It's if you really know like who you want to get, you will find a way. So that's why I think like it's so again, with the video, just shooting a video resume, putting it on a profile doesn't make any sense. I think again, or it's a need to be a strategy over the content, like you're talking about some experience, or I think it's more like a cover letter kind of video. That's my perspective, not being recruiter. So what do you think, guys?
I used to spend, on average, about 2 hours a day on LinkedIn as a recruiter looking for people. And most of the people that I put into roles weren't actually looking. They weren't looking. They were a passive market. But their profiles were so good that they communicated them and their value that I reached out to them. So I did most of my fishing for candidates in the passive market, not on job adverts or anything else like that. And it was a hook. It was something that they had in there that I go, I like the look of this person. I want to have a chat with them. And then when they woke up that morning, they weren't even looking for a new job. But through the process of having a conversation, by the end of the conversation, they go, okay, an extra 10K or 20K in my pay packet would be quite a nice thing. Let's have a look. Let's have a listen. So getting back, if you're going to do a cover letter should be tailored to a job. If you're going to do a video, make sure it's tailored to a job. That goes with what you're saying. And that could be a drip feed thing, or addressing the recruiter directly and saying, hey, this is what I love about this role, and this is why I think I'll be really good for it. You're also doing your communication skills in there as well. Have some fun with it. Recruiters see the same thing day in, day out, every single day. Breaking that monotony for them, you're doing them a huge favor. So again, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. You haven't lost anything.
Yeah, I think that's such an important point, to break the monotony. Speaking as somebody who a few years ago was hiring for software development positions, for one role, I would get 100 CVs a day to go through. And I the best will in the world, I cannot give every CV the same attention. Otherwise, that's all I will be doing in my job. And so anything you can do to make yourself stand out is good, but take into account everything Jana's saying, that you've got to make sure that people do not have a lot of time. So it has to be impactful and short.
Okay, thank you. Jana, I think Naisha just logged in. Can you bring her back in now?
Not sure. Disappeared.
Yeah, that's all right. Anyway, thanks for your time. This was fun. We don't have any more questions now. We don't have any more questions, but thanks for your time, Jonathan, Andrew, Jana, and Naisha. I'll give a special thanks to Naisha offline, but yeah, thanks to Naisha. This was a very interesting conversation. Hopefully, our viewers will also get a lot of value into it. And please reach out to us if you need any help. You know, we are here to help. And anyway, it is virtual anyway, so LinkedIn is probably the best place. And this recording has also gone to YouTube, which means you can watch it later as well. Thank you. Thanks. That's all from me. Until next time. Bye.
And yeah, thank you everyone. Whoever's still with us on LinkedIn, give us thumbs up so we can see that he's still with us. And I'll obviously give the recordings to all of you guys. So if any of your clients would wanna, see the recordings, we'll pass it over. I'll just end the broadcasting now. And 1 second.